So that is what you call an epic close for the 49ers defense. I'm going to go ahead and hold this right here because it's going to be loud back here. Maybe it won't be that loud. Seahawks fans are leaving behind me here at Lumen Field. Closers all around. This was a tractor pull. This was a bar fight. And then Nick Bosa on the end zone where Dre Greenlaw had delivered against Jacob Hollister back final game of the decade in 2019. Nick Bosa backed Abraham Lucas into Sam Darnold. And Darnold just let the ball slip. But I think part of the reason he let the ball slip is because he saw Nick Bosa, and Bosa fell on it. 49ers beat Seattle for a monster win, 17-13. And yes, I was wrong. I picked the 49ers to lose this game, but they clutched up in epic fashion. Brock Purdy in this game started off really hot, and then he threw especially one head-scratching interception, the one that Josh Joby tried to force it into the Ricky Pearsall. I get it because he was down Juwan Jennings, he was down George Kittle, he was down Brandon Ayuk, but Purdy clutched up in the red zone at the very end. It looked like he might be forcing a football in as he rolled right to Jake Tonges, who was replacing George Kittle, but Jake Tonges snatched the ball away from Reek Woolen, the Seahawks cornerback. You know, Tonges didn't have a single catch in his career entering this game. He probably won't have a bigger catch in his life than the one that he made today to send the 49ers over the Seahawks. Just out-muscled Reek Woolen, the cornerback, and it was a scramble drill kind of play for Brock Purdy. You know, it looked like Joe Montana rolling to the right, looking for Dwight Clark, except nobody was really open, including Jake Tonges. But Brock Purdy did make it happen. It takes guts to put in a throw like that. And it took strength and it took coordination from Jake Tonges to deliver on a catch like that. That came at the end of a drive, and there were several drives for the 49ers in this game that unfortunately for them ended up fruitless because of Jake Moody's struggles and then the entire kicking operation. There was the block by Julian Love. It got to the point where Kyle Shanahan wasn't going to attempt a field goal at the end. He was going to go for that if it came to fourth down, I believe, at the end of the game. But Brock Purdy made that all a moot point. I mean, just look at some of these stats. The 49ers had 38 minutes of possession to only 22 for Seattle. The 49ers had 384 yards compared to only 227 yards for the Seattle Seahawks. The 49ers, 5.3 yards per play. Seattle, only 4.5. So 49ers dominated this game with a very surprise showing from their young defense. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways of all this is how well Robert Saleh's defense played. But they dominated statistically. They held the football, yet it was still by the skin of their teeth at the very, very end here in Seattle. Absolutely gripping stuff. Tonges, my friend Keith says Tonges gets the game ball for sure. Yes, Tonges gets the game ball for sure with that catch at the very end. 3 catches for Jake Tonges in this one. You know, other game balls for the 49ers. Purdy, I thought, actually played really well despite the 2 picks. The first pick, Ernest Jones, had just Mike McDonald. This is a good Seattle defense. Let's put it that way. The Seahawks, this is a team that was a top 6 defense to close last season. I think it might be a top 5 defense this year. And the 49ers had to play them shorthanded in this game. And Brock Purdy still made it work. But you've got to give credit to Mike McDonald. It was an epic chess match against Kyle Shanahan. And he had Ernest Jones drop further than I've ever seen a linebacker drop against that crosser from Juwan Jennings. And Purdy just didn't expect that through that first pick. It's one of those you tip your cap. The second one, Brock had time. I thought he forced it downfield. And it looked for the moment that would give Seattle a big-time upper hand in this game. But the 49ers defense just kept on delivering. At the end of the day, Seattle only managed 4.6 yards per play on offense, and that's including the deep shot over Renardo Green to JSN. Without that, Seattle was at about 4 yards per play, which is an elite performance from the 49ers defense. In fact, the only thing that probably kept the Seahawks in this game early on was the Upton Stout pass interference holding penalty against Cooper Kupp in the first half. And we knew that the 49ers defense would be young and there'd be some growing pains, but they were very, very relatively minimal, the growing pains in this game compared to what we thought they would be. It was Upton Stout getting picked on a couple times early, but other than that, this 49ers defense was flying around. Robert Saleh was calling blitz after blitz. What a difference from last year. The first 3, 3rd, or 4th downs were blitzes. and they all hit. And then he backed off, and Sam Darnold was surprised, and he went up with a give-up throw underneath. I mean, this was impressive stuff from a 49ers defense that saw a sack from Nick Bosa, 3 tackles for loss from Nick Bosa, the fumble recovery at the end. Leading tackler was Fred Warner, who looked like he got kicked in the face and was bleeding early. One of the toughest guys in the NFL delivered for San Francisco. And Marquise Siegel had a huge fumble recovery ahead of the Bosa fumble recovery. Shout out to Sam Okawanu. And hey, big picture here is if the 49ers can play the type of defense they showed today, they're ahead of the schedule that I projected them to be on. You know, I did pick the 49ers to lose because I didn't think they were going to play that type of defense here on the road. But they played very, very well on that side of the ball. They limited the growing pains, at least the visible ones today. Sam Darnold finished with only 150 passing yards. Seattle managed only 3.2 yards per carry, only 84 rushing yards for the Seahawks. I mean, Robert Saleh 2.0 is off to a swimming start for the 49ers. I mean, this is a box score that Kyle Shanahan is going to be thrilled with. Now we need to see what happens with Jake Moody and the 49ers special teams unit, because Moody obviously missed that 27-yarder. That was his fault. The block, though, that's on the whole operation, the one after that. So the 49ers left 6 points on the board just like that, and it almost cost them a football game that they dominated statistically. So you've got to credit the closers. You got to credit Brock Purdy, Christian McCaffrey, who looked great in this game. It looked like the MPH was way up to par. You've got to credit Nick Bosa and the defense for finishing things off and overcoming another lousy special teams performance and another vintage low point of the Jake Moody experience. So this is, you know, the 49ers didn't win games like this last year because they weren't playing this type of defense last year. They got the defense to help Purdy this time, even though he was shorthanded. He looked elite for a huge part of this game, and then had those 2 interceptions in the second half that really tapered things off. But crunch time is when it matters. You've got to come from behind in the fourth quarter in this league, especially in division games. Things are going to be really tightly contested. And Purdy in that game-winning drive, I mean, he threw some dimes to Ricky Pearsall downfield. The Christian McCaffrey was obviously used very, very frequently for the 49ers with the rest of the offense shorthanded. I mean, they had to overcome a lot, including only rushing for 3.3 yards per carry. We saw a hell of a chess match between Mike McDonald, a talented Seahawks defense, and a 49ers offense that had to make it work with limited pieces. And did they ever? Christian McCaffrey, 73 receiving yards, 69 rushing yards, so 140 all-purpose. Yeah, he's healthy. Ricky Pearsall, 4 for 108. Explosion today, especially on the deep shot that turned things around. I thought that Brock Purdy couldn't throw outside the numbers. I thought he couldn't throw deep. I guess people who say that don't know what they're talking about. So Purdy pulls this one out. So does Jake Tonges, literally pulls it out. No catches until this game for him. Now I'm headed down to the 49ers locker room. Going to talk to Juszczyk. He had a big catch today, and we'll see what the status on George Kittle with his hamstring injury is. But bottom line is 49ers are 1-0. Purdy's really damn good. Purdy's clutch. Jake Tonges, an unexpected hero, steps up. McCaffrey is healthy, and the defense looks ahead of schedule. Big question now is, how do the 49ers fix that special teams? Because what they saw today will not be good enough moving forward. I will say, though, that this is a monster win. The fact they're able to gut this out with the shorthandedness that they dealt with, the schedule gets easier. They go to New Orleans, where they're going to be pretty big favorites next week. Then they go home for 2 games against the Cardinals and Jacksonville. The fact that you're able to go and beat a really good Seattle defense with a lot of injury problems offensively on the road, that's a massive arrow up for the 49ers. Now they got it, and it's going to be dramatic this week with Jake Moody in that kicking unit, because I don't think that he is skating on particularly thin ice. And the experience has obviously been up and down. It's been a maddening one. We're going to have to figure out what Kyle Shanahan thinks of the block. I don't know if Matt Hennessy got crumpled up there in protection. Obviously, Julian Love came in, and it appeared the whole left side of the line got there, but you just can't miss the gimmies. And the 49ers missed a gimme early on. Then that was very, very problematic for them. 17-13, San Francisco clutching up in this game. Brock Purdy also rushed for 17 yards, but the line for him, I don't think illustrates how well he played in the clutch. 26 of 35, 277. a couple touchdowns, including one to Jake Tonges. Opened and closed with a touchdown to a tight end. Poetic that it was Tonges filling in for Kittle, who scored that first touchdown for the 49ers and then hurt his hamstring. But not all is well with the 49ers. However, a monster win is in hand. Brock Purdy is now 4-0 in his career against the Seattle Seahawks. I am off to the locker room. We'll talk to you guys soon. 4-0 in his career here in Seattle, by the way. I'll talk to you guys soon.